Hello and welcome back to stage 3. I hope you enjoyed your networking. We are down to our last bonus track of the day, and I'm super excited. It's going to be a great topic. So we'll be chatting with some speakers today on how to mentor youth entrepreneurs. Let's bring up Julie Shannon, the Executive Director of VentureLab, and Keelan Swain, Tech Lead at Explosion Tech. Hi, thanks for joining. We're happy to have you.
Hi, Brady.
Howdy.
Thanks for having us. Should we get started? All right. Let's begin. Welcome to How to Mentor Youth Entrepreneurs. My name is Julie Shannon. I'm the Executive Director of VentureLab, and I'm here with Keelan Swain, the co-founder of Explosion Technology. And today we're going to share some practical tips on how to give back to the next generation of entrepreneurs.
I'm really excited. Julie, are you?
I'm excited because both of us have experiences with someone mentoring us. So we're going to share what worked for us and also encouraging people that it's not hard to be a mentor, right?
It's not. It's not at all.
All right. Well, I did want to start with a stat that's pretty staggering. 65% of students entering elementary school will work in jobs. Oh, I need to probably, hold on. Let me get back to the show just a second. Is that working now? Did it move?
It moves.
All right. 65% of children entering primary school today will likely work in a job that doesn't currently exist. And now more than ever, the entrepreneurial mindset is needed. According to Small Business Trends, 96% of new entrepreneurs say this pandemic is motivating them to start something new, to start their own business. And unfortunately, our students are not prepared to enter this new workforce. So at VentureLab, just a little background about VentureLab, we are creating the next generation of problem solvers. The World Economic Forum indicates that the skill sets of the future are creativity, social intelligence, empathy, adaptability, just to name a few. So the entrepreneurial mindset is more important than ever, especially with this next generation. And global leader in youth entrepreneurship education. Right now, we are reaching over 360,000 youth in 150 countries with entrepreneurship education, and we're doing that with the help of mentors just like Keelan. So thank you, Keelan, for joining us. Thank you for being part of this, and thank you for being a mentor to our students.
Yes, I will pat myself on the back, okay, and pat all my wonderful students.
Before we get started, I wanted to just take a moment and remind ourselves why mentorship matters. It's one of those long-term investments that does pay off. Just like investing in a kid's life early, starting young, making a big difference. And it's something that they will never forget. And if we think about mentoring, we've all had mentors in every stage of our life, right? So Keelan, you have a really interesting story. I love your entrepreneurship journey. And I'd love you to share a little bit about how you started and the mentors that helped impact your life.
Okay. So the theme of my start, we have this slide here, start small and dream big, is because there's a story to encapsulate it all. So if I offered you today, okay, $1 million or a penny that doubled daily and doubles in value every single day for 31 days, which one would you choose? So if some of you guys have actually heard this story before, you may already know that choosing the penny option is a much better choice than the $1 million. But most people will have a hard time believing that the penny will result in more money, more wealth, more cash over time than an actual payoff. And it's really simple why the penny pays off more. And the reason why people have a hard time believing it because it just takes the payoff is so much longer. But if we go through the math of it all, the whole theme is, it's all about delaying gratification. So let's just say you took the $1 million and your friend decided to say, all right, I'll take the penny that doubles in value every day. So what's interesting is that by day 5, right, the friend has 16 cents and you have $1 million. You're making fun of your friend like, hey man, you see, I told you should took the cash in hand. By day 10, the friend only has $5.12. So on the weekends, you taking your family out, your friends out, and your friend is there just, he's all types of jealous. But even by day 20, the penny compounds to $5,000, 242 cents. And your friend is feeling very upset. He just got played, okay, for taking a penny instead of $1 million. And the friend does not see the fruit of all of the compounding of the penny until really day 27. It starts to get a little bit more interesting, where day 27 says here he has $671,000, and he's pretty close to your $1 million. And you actually probably spent all your cash in the past 30 days. So your friend is feeling pretty good. But not until the last day of day 28, where your friend starts to succeed. The $1 million you have about $300,000, and by day 30, the friend makes over $5 million from the penny doubling daily. And the reason why this is a big deal, it goes into, of course, delayed gratification of really working on something long term. But also, this is how I felt for me starting off with my story. I had very, very small ideas in the first chapters of my life, but I kept improving and doubling my knowledge, experience, and as well as technical capabilities to where my initial ideas have turned into millions of dollars on the long end. And so for me, chapter 1, it started off with really, really small kid hustles that most of you guys may know of, such as cutting the grass. So my grandmother let me borrow her lawnmower, and I went up and down the street in my neighborhood and cut everyone's grass for a weekend. And that's how I made my first $100. And I was like, this is great, because I bought my own gummy bears and I bought my own Skittles when I went to the store. And that actually led me to my other small kid hustles and invention, and which my granny helped again. And she's actually one of my first mentors that I want to highlight, because I end up cutting grass was in elementary school, but then in middle school, I had another idea because I wanted some new shoes for Christmas, is that I wanted to sell candy in school. It was a great model, absolutely phenomenal, where the kids would pay 2 extra price, because one, in middle school, you have to get a hall pass to go to a vending machine or a restroom. So you're pretty much trapped most of the time in the class, and kids are hungry. And so my grandmother ended up funding me, my first investor and mentor, at Sam's Club to buy the Skittles, Starburst, gummy worms at wholesale prices and resell them for 200% margins. Now, doing that hustle, I ended up making $1,000. But the lesson I learned as well is you can't eat your own supply, okay, guys? Because I ended up start to lose money towards the end, and it wasn't making sense. I was paying my granny more. After my granny bought my first set of Skittles, I started to buy them, but then the profits wasn't really aligning well. And so that was a great lesson learned. And then once I got into high school, guys, this is when I got a little bit more artistic, and I actually started a dance crew. And this is when YouTube was really starting to come around, where if you had a dance crew, breakdance crew. Okay, I still got some moves, guys. If you had a breakdance crew, you can go on YouTube, get a lot of views, and get paid for advertising on YouTube, get advertised to publish, as well as sell merch like T-shirts, sportswear, etc. And that was really great. And this is when my dad actually mentored. He used to break dance in high school as well, and he taught me a few moves along the way to improve my skills, and as well as friends and family. And so during this time I had these entrepreneurial hustles. I also want to highlight that I was always in some type of STEM program where for summer courses. I know Julie has a huge amount of experience in STEM program, but in my STEM programs also had, and this is during the summer, like this is not during school, this is during the summer, where some of the community members will volunteer and mentor kids who want to learn science and technology. We'll learn courses and curriculum the year in advance of going to school. And so, I'm planting all these seeds because these small things led to something really huge. And I want to highlight all the different people that really helped me when I was a kid. Like my grandmother, my father, and all my STEM mentors in between. Because in college, that's when things really exploded, pun intended. And so in college, I was actually able to get involved in engineering. Well, I actually got accepted to the engineering program at the Prairie View A&M University. I wish I had my shirt on, but the Prairie View A&M University. I studied computer engineering, and I also was very fortunate enough to play baseball for a bit of time. During this time in college, which is crazy, I was able to work at Intel and NASA. Let's just say I was a pretty smart student, and I was able to pick up on all the science and technology that I learned in engineering school because I worked on it when I was a kid. It came fairly easy to me, and I was able to get some great work experience at those premier companies, and Intel Austin to be exact. But during this time, I had a tribe of mentors as well, because when I worked at Intel, it was always a coworker there to help me assimilate or get accustomed to working as a professional in whatever department I was in, especially NASA, because I was working as with rocket scientists, and we launched a couple of rockets out of space. I don't know if you ever seen a rocket launch, but
no big deal, right? No big deal. Just
no big deal. It'll make you cry as you see something large as a skyscraper go into outer space. But tangent, the really big story is how I got into explosion. Was actually going into my third year of college, coming after all of the experiences that I had from Intel and NASA, and having mentors show me that the new technologies and new ways of thinking. And there was a little thing coming out. Now this is about 2014, 2015. A new thing coming out called Internet of Things, IoT. Right, it's a big deal now. But six years ago, it was fairly new. And so if you're not familiar with it, some people use it in terms of the Ring doorbells can be considered in it. And some people may use it for different things like Fitbits or smartwatches can be used. And so, it was a lot of guys who were telling me this is a big trend. And as well as during this time, I actually stopped playing baseball. Now, I stopped playing baseball, not by choice, but because I was cut from the team. And this is where my unfortunate situation turned very fortunate, where I had to figure out, okay, how can you get back on the team, Keelan Swain? And so I reached out to a professor, and I told him, hey, here's my story. Actually, Dr. Sway is one of my mentors. I said, here's my story. Is there any way that I could use some things I'm learning in school to create an IoT device to help me actually improve my swing? And that's when Dr. Sway, she actually mentored me into doing research with her, and I actually got a $10,000 stipend to work on a swing center, a baseball swing center. And from there, that was really the start of the bigger idea for my entrepreneurial career, where all the different experiences start to marry together in something quite beautiful. And I was able to get involved, launch a startup called Explosion, and not only help baseball players like myself develop a better swing or performance, but others around the world, because I started to see the big picture. I was able to co-found it with students in my University of Prairie View. I'm gonna say it again. Co-founded the idea with students at Prairie View. Some play baseball, right? I know Julie talked about interdisciplinary thinking lateral thinking is a great part of interdisciplinary thinking. It's entrepreneurial. Some play baseball, some study engineering and electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, computer science. And so we're able to co-found something really great. And it resulted in something absolutely beautiful where leaving college, going into the real world, we were able to raise $120,000 right after college, get accepted into Div Inc. Accelerator, which is very, very known in Austin, Texas, and in 2017. And most recently, last year, we were able to partner and win a $250,000 National Science Foundation grant, which only 8% of people in the United States of America get accepted into. And so I've been in the startup since leaving college, and that goes in chapter 3, real world, where I've been able to now give back and mentor students in the VentureLab program and then other programs like Prairie View. And I believe we're going to more stories of those. But now, because I had probably since I was 8 or 9 years old, so many experiences from mentors and entrepreneurship, able to give back now. And, it's never too early to give back is one of the things I'm learning. And so we go into the next transition.
Yeah, well, no, I was just thinking you've really experienced every type of mentoring we're going to talk about. So just through your story. So I love hearing how, like, we're going to talk about the types of mentoring, but it's like, it doesn't take a lot of time, or it can take, years, right? So mentoring can look a lot of different ways. So one of the ways is, by the way, I love your story, Keelan. And I love that you started off as mowing lawns, because I also started off mowing lawns. That was my first entrepreneurial venture as well. So here's to the parents and grandparents and caregivers that lend us their lawn mowers and so let's go over a few types of mentoring. One-on-one mentoring is, one of the ways that you can give with that takes the most amount of time. And we've actually at VentureLab, we started doing, let me tell you a little bit about how I started off with one-on-one when I was at Girl Start. I created a mentoring program and to mentor girls that weren't interested in STEM, that didn't like technology. And we recruited women, computer programmers and scientists to mentor them. And over that year of mentorship, it was an email mentorship. It was a big commitment, a year-long commitment. It was for high school girls, and they were supposed to email once a month back and forth. I learned a lot of lessons, but the biggest lesson was that not everyone is going to have the same experience if you are, one-on-one. So some girls had a fantastic experience. Other mentors, their students didn't respond to them at all. So they were, frustrated, right? I had one mentor tell a girl that she didn't need to go to college. And I was like, well, that didn't really make her parents that happy when that was the goal, right? To get kids into college. So it wasn't that great of an experience. And I swore I would never do another one-on-one mentoring program again. And here I am at VentureLab. And I'm like, the first thing I noticed was we have kid entrepreneurs that have awesome ideas, and they need to hear from stories like yours of someone that's gone through a lot of failures and a lot of resiliency. And so even though I swore I'd never do another one-on-one mentoring program, I changed it up to where it's a one-on-one ask me anything. And you did that with Aiden. This is Aiden, one of our Spark students. And we created Spark because we saw a huge gap. There's a huge gap with accessibility of resources. So, families that are just barely trying to put food on the table are not going to have extra money to go buy extra supplies for a kid to start an idea and to start a business. It's expensive. They don't just go to Hobby Lobby or order from Amazon.com. That's a luxury of like middle class and high class. And so we started Spark to fund kids' dreams. And we matched them up with mentors for a 60-minute Ask Me Anything session. And you showed up, and this is Aiden with his bow tie company, and he's very shy. And one of the things that you did was immediately put him at ease. So you asked him questions. You also encouraged him. So tell me, just in 1 or 2 sentences, your experience with this virtual kind of Ask Me Anything session.
Yeah, so the first one I explained it is very efficient. So if you notice, they have it's not just me and Aiden, it's also another person in the room to actually help facilitator of the conversation. So it's very nice to have. It's something you can do virtually and it feels right, but in person may be a little different. So it was very efficient. We had a facilitator there to do like overall introductions and ease into things. And as well as just talking to Aiden and seeing them virtually, it's quite neat to be able to meet someone. I believe Aiden's in Austin.
Yeah.
He's in Austin. I was in Houston. So it definitely helps us transcend about 200 miles and still be able to communicate. So it was a great experience.
Cool. Thank you for doing that. And I know we have you lined up to mentor some more kids. Another type of mentoring is speaking and sharing your story. And I know this is something you do a lot that may be intimidating for people that have never gotten on stage in front of kids. Can you share maybe a couple tips, just as how to find those speaking opportunities and how to share your story and not be intimidated by kids?
Yeah, so the easiest way to practice if you're sharing your story to a group of people, to kids, is that it's fairly easy. Well, right now it's not available, but during times out of the pandemic or the Rona, is that you can go to your local, like if you went to a local high school, you can always go back and say, I want to talk to a class that's concerning to your industry. For me, a lot of times it's the technology class, the math class, the science class, and I can go back and you can practice. Because that's the second thing I would say. I'm speaking here. This is in San Francisco at Stanford University to a school. I call it the design school, to design school students. And the thing I did there, it was a lightning talk. I would recommend start off with a 2-minute to 5-minute talk as well. That helps a lot without having to create too much content. But the third thing is that short talk, reach out to school. The third thing will have to be is practice. So I practice probably 20 to 30 times in a mirror. And this is one of the things I learned playing sports is, you practice so many times. Once you're in the game, it's all instinct. And so once I start to speak, the words just magically came out of my mouth. And it wasn't as much thinking just because I practiced. And, find someone you can partner with, a friend, a coworker, your spouse, your partner, someone you can practice with, and they can also give you feedback while you work.
I agree with you. And I also think that, telling, funny stories about yourself, making fun of yourself. I always tell kids when I'm speaking to them, I'm like, I went to school before the internet was like mainstream, and I had a phone that I had to carry in a bag, it's so funny to them. They're just like, oh, you're like old as my grandma. And I'm like, I probably am.
Okay.
The next, hold on. Let's see. Sharing your story. There's also group mentoring, which I know that you participated in group mentoring as well. Do you have some tips for effective group mentoring? Because it can look a lot different than being the solo person.
Yeah. So group mentoring is interesting. I was at University of Prairie View. I ran some student organizations. One was called PV Wire, where innovation reaches entrepreneurship. And it was all about, the higher education level of kind of like VentureLab, where we want to get a group of students at Prairie View. This is actually Prairie View students here at Capital Factory. If you guys remember the second floor at the Omni Hotel. This is how it looks. But what we're able to do, we actually did a level, like a small mentorship conference where we invited about 30 students to come out to Capital Factory, and we selected like 4 or 5 entrepreneurs, and they just came in and told them their story, and the students loved it. And so the thing I learned with group mentoring is that, you know, you can talk to a group for about 30 minutes to an hour, but then the other tips I learned is that you might want to break into subgroups where you have different categories that people are interested in. Some people may be interested in e-commerce. Some people may be interested in science. Some people may be interested in making an app. And so you can kind of group those people together. And then once you have smaller groups, the smaller groups can also be teamed up and help each other work in silos. So I learned it's kind of like a class approach where you have like a 30-minute general, hey, this is something that helps everybody in group mentoring, but then it's also very helpful to break into smaller categories. So the groups can feed off each other's experiences, troubleshoot, and they can help answer each other questions. And also like kind of have, if you have the resources, to have mentors to help, like industry experts, to help those people in the different categories that you broke them up into.
Yeah, I think group mentoring can provide it can be really great for companies that want to maybe send out a group of their employees to lead an activity. So you have, you know, like the people that are confident, the employees that are confident with kids, and you kind of have people, the employees that are learning, right? So it's a good, for me, I think group mentoring can be a good opportunity to almost train other mentors. But it also takes the pressure off, right? You're not the only person. You're, you know, you're kind of part of a team, and it's a really easy way for, you know, put on your t-shirts, for your company t-shirts, and, you know, kind of infiltrate a classroom. We used to do a conference for girls where, you know, we'd have teams come in from different tech companies and lead like app development activities or, you know, robotics, and they'd all wear their t-shirts, and it was really cool for the girls in that program to see role models, even though some of the, you know, adults were shyer and it was their first time. They would have never done it if they didn't have other people, right? And so I do think group mentoring can be really meaningful for both the mentors and the students. Then this is something that I'm sure every entrepreneur has had some sort of experience or watched a pitch event. And one of the things that we really wanted to do at VentureLab when the pandemic hit was continue our pitch events, which really gave kids an opportunity to express their new business ideas, right? No matter how bizarre they are. And kids, let me tell you, kids are solving this pandemic. They are like solving Corona because they have a lot of ideas on how to fix this. They need toys delivered immediately to their homes. So one kid came up with like a toy, like an ice cream truck that delivered toys, and they could go out every day and pick them. This right here is a picture of Nico, who has created a mask that was see-through, and this was this past summer. So, you know, he's like, I don't like not being able to see my, you know, my friends, you know, smiles. And so we had another kid entrepreneur that was 9 that started a book reading company over the internet to read different books to kids all over. So they're really solving COVID. And we have panelists for pitch events that, you know, this is an opportunity for an hour to listen to different kids' pitches. And they're like, you know, 2 or 3 minute pitches, and give positive feedback. And I know, like, you had mentioned, like, the peanut butter and jelly, you know, kind of like, because, you know, when entrepreneurs are used to kind of like, you know, a startup pitch event can be pretty brutal. So, but for kids, the last thing we want to do is strike their dreams down, especially if they're really way out there. So what's a tip for giving kids positive feedback, like when they're pitching their really like exciting ideas.
Yeah, the key is to encourage, but encourage with a little bit of objectivity. And so peanut butter and jelly is a great metaphor to think of, actually. Not just because I love to eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, triple deckers to be exact. If you don't know what that is, Google it. It's absolutely fantastic. But in the regular peanut butter jelly sandwich, you may go peanut butter jelly or jelly peanut butter. I don't know what type of person you are, but I'm more of a peanut butter on top and jelly at the bottom. And the peanut butter of giving advice to, for a pitch event, which I've done a lot of, is that you may start off with objective. Okay, great. You may start off with objective information to say, hey, there's some things that you can improve or work on, right? And then the jelly side of things is saying like, hey, I appreciate your enthusiasm. I appreciate your work ethic. I can tell you're very passionate about solving this problem, and you should not give up on it. So the goal is to not to totally discourage your kid, but give him something that he can chew on so he can take back into the lab and actually improve upon his idea and start up, but help him, make him want to go back and build up his idea.
I like that. We have 15 minutes left, so we're going to breeze through a few of these others. E-mentoring is something that is becoming more and more popular right now, especially with not being able to do anything online, and it can be just as effective. But I wanted to jump in and say a few things about what makes a great mentoring experience for students, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if like the kids aren't really connecting, right? So tips for connecting with students, and this is really the priority, is that we are relating to kids in a way that they care about. Give it time. That is something that I don't know if Keelan, if you've ever like been introduced to a student and they're just like not having it. They're like, you don't know anything about me. You're not the same color as me. You don't know what I've been through. And so that's where humor can kind of come in for, or like recognize, like, look, I totally know I am, may look a different color than you, but guess what? Like, I'm a first graduate in my family. I didn't grow up around privilege. And just being able to try to relate to students on where they are. What's one tip on building trust in a relationship?
Consistency. I think that's one of the things we talked about before this presentation. Was consistency is a common theme around the board. It's like you have someone you can depend on, and that's what's key in a lot of these mentoring programs, especially if you come from different backgrounds or different areas where you're not as fortunate.
Yeah, and keeping your word, right? Like you say you're going to be there, show up. And, even if the student doesn't show up, you were there. And so, yeah, consistency is awesome. Also, we need to make sure that this is a good experience for mentors too, because, it's really experience. So finding the perfect opportunity that is easy, that has a low learning curve, something that you're passionate about. One thing that I hear a lot is mentors say, oh, I want to just dive in and mentor a kid, and they don't have the time realistically. And so being realistic about how much time you can give. And, one of the things that I find really fascinating is it doesn't take a lot of time to make a major impact on a kid or anyone. And so, I used to ask women in STEM how they got into engineering or how they got into computer programming. And I would hear over and over, it was, oh, we had this guest speaker come in and talk about her cool career. Or I met this woman that was a doctor, and I'm like, I've never met a female doctor, and I just wanted to do what she did. It takes one moment, right? And usually it's after school time that it is unusual. And so tell me, for you now, you're busy, you're an entrepreneur, you have a startup, and you're, you've got your life. How do you find an opportunity? Like, what makes it easy or for you to be a mentor? What's the best tip for you as far as like finding a good opportunity?
Yeah. Julie, you're right. Busyness. Every time I talked to you, I was on the road. I was in Tennessee, Kansas. And so find opportunity to mentorship. Man, I just remember having so many mentors in my life and feeling obligated, to give back in some way, shape, or form, even if it's a text message or even if it's virtual, just because I want to help the next Keelan come around. And so there's a lot of kids come from my position that I know all they need is a little push. And so that's one thing that really motivates me.
Nice. All right. We are going to just talk about ways to give back at VentureLab. This is something that we started the AMA sessions. It's a 60-minute commitment. It is not hard. Keelan, you did it. We do our best to moderate the conversation. We have panelists for pitch events. All you have to know to be a panelist is how to encourage a kid. Like, it's not hard. Don't, shut their dreams down. That's all we ask. Being a guest speaker, we have at our summer camps, which were virtual this year, we had guest speakers that, had one of our speakers had created a board game, and these kids were like, oh my God, entrepreneurs look like all kinds, right? This person created a technology, this person created a board game that I probably could play. And so then we also have opportunities for virtual, mentors. There's databases out there. Keelan, you mentioned going back to your school, high school, your college. Do you ask them, do you have opportunities, or do they reach out to you?
Yeah. This is great. We also have a question here. What are some local youth groups that founders and startups can get involved with to help inspire, encourage the next generation entrepreneurs? So that kind of connects to what you asked me, what groups could you connect to? And so we have one here on the call with VentureLab is one of them. But in terms of the local high schools, finding me, I went to the local high schools, so I would just go. Most times I will go to the teacher, and ask them, hey, I would love to come back and talk to your kids. What's your schedule? When's a good time to come? And as well as with my college, same thing. You just go directly to the professor of business. You can go a professor of business, professor of entrepreneurship. They have this at University of Texas. You're in Austin. They also have VentureLab and VentureLab. You're in Austin. There's a few in Austin, but I want to highlight the ones we have on tap. You can literally follow up with VentureLab today. As well to get in contact to answer that specific question. But Julie can add more to mentorship opportunities.
Yeah, I think, the great thing about even the way the world is now, it's so virtual, right? And, VentureLab mentors kids all over the country and outside of the country as well. And so there's opportunities. You don't have to be in Austin, even if you are in a different state or city. There's Million Women Mentors, which is a database to share your story, and they'll match you up with mentorship opportunities. There's also volunteermatch.com, which you can find volunteer opportunities. And then, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, I'm a huge fan of that long-term one-on-one relationship. I used to go to the Texas Baptist Children's Home, which is a
local church.
Yeah, it's right outside of Austin, and it's an orphanage. And I would go to Cottage 8 every Tuesday when I was in college and sit there and help with the boys with their math homework. And so they just knew if they had a math problem that they were having trouble with, that I would be there every Tuesday. So I really think that just consistency and going and asking, if you like connecting it with something you care about, if you're passionate about something, find out if there are kids in that program that you can help. And I think that's it. Do we have any other questions from the audience that you're curious about, comments? What worked for you? I saw that one question, but like I said, we're here to help. We are here to if you want to reach us, we're easy to find. Keelan, you can give, I didn't have your email address that I didn't put on.
Keelan.swain@explosionlive.com.
Cool. So yeah, I just encourage everyone to find a way to give back. We should always be lending a hand to the next generation, because they're going to be taking care of us, right, in our world. So why not help them?
Yes, they are. We have to start paving the way. I think one of the things people say is pay it forward, right? And so you pay people behind you so we can move forward as a society. And so that's one of the bigger things that I hear. That's an easy thing to remember.
One of the things I will tell you with our Spark program, one of our advisory board members was really passionate about, as a kid, he grew up in an area that he just didn't have a lot of access to, even like people that had gone to college.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we can give them, students that may have, they may not only do they have the financial means, they don't have the social means. And so we can connect them with entrepreneurs that they would not maybe know, that, STEM professionals like you were connected with, mm-hmm. that, they're not going to be maybe crossing paths with them, but we make that happen. And so I love the opportunity to basically expand kids' networks, right? Like suddenly they have a fan of theirs that lives in Houston, Texas, that plays sports and, is like one of their biggest fans. And so one of the Spark students we're connecting you with next is a football player that started a meditation company, and he's got a swag company with t-shirts. And Keelan, one of your businesses was t-shirts, right?
Yeah, I'm still selling t-shirts. It's actually fairly easy now to do print on demand. One of the things I would want to talk to him about, and hopefully he's doing. But yes, that is, that's one of the connecting points that we all have. Another thing I would say, if you talking to a student that you don't have experience in and they need help in, you can always, ask a friend or reach out to other resources, because they may know something that it's totally fine if you don't know how to exactly help someone, because you can always reach out to your local network, like Capital Factory, for instance, to, hey, do you know anybody in XYZ? In XYZ, maybe it's, a t-shirt, or maybe it's some type of mechanical, maybe it's building game boards, right? Who can help, or game design. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, Keelan. I hope if anyone wants to volunteer, I'm happy to take more mentors like Keelan. Oh, Brittany, we can't hear you.
The mute button, right? Thank y'all so much. It's really so important that we're mentoring our youth. So I appreciate y'all coming on and sharing that and your journeys.
Awesome. Thank you. Y'all have a good day.
You too. Well, everybody, that was our last session for the bonus track today. We're going to be transitioning back over to networking. So if you want to go meet some other awesome attendees, make sure to press the networking icon on the left side of your screen. The next track, Survival and Pivots, will be starting at 12:45. So we hope to see you back then. Thanks so much.